Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday. Thank goodness it's here. Unless you're, of course, you're watching or listening to this on repeat at whatever time of day it is, in which case it's that time, not the Friday. But this is going out live on Friday, so that's what I'm going to say. And today, Marianne and I are going to be talking about passion, not fashion, like David Bowie talked about, but passion. That's right, isn't it? Isn't that what we decided we're going to choose to talk about today? It's a funny old thing, isn't it? Passion, because there's lots of different forms of it. Yeah. But I suppose primarily we want to talk about passion that people have for what they're doing in work, or passion that people have for a particular sort of cause or dedication, decision that they've made to follow some path, and then things that come along to kind of deviate from that passion. Really,
deviate or derail, things that derail you. Or
okay, that's a good word. Yeah.
So my day. Yeah.
Okay, so like when you first started, let's talk about your business to begin with. When you first started 2M training, what was the passion? What was the absolute passion?
My why, or
that's your why, isn't it? Is it
not
the same
for
thing?
For me it was, we've had this conversation, I never really set out as, I'm sort of an accidental. Is accidental or incidental?
Accidental, yeah. Axolotls, they're the things that are in the sea. You've completely frozen. Why has that happened?
Why has that just done that?
I have absolutely no idea.
Every so often it just cuts out and does this thing. Can you pause that or whatever?
Yeah, what we're going to do, that bit that was in there a minute ago where that paused, that was a prime example of a passion killer. Right? There we were in the throes of it, giving it the old, 1 2 1 2, and the interweb decided to stop. You see, and that really does kind of stop at all. It does derail you.
You can't get trying to get back into that flow. I will though. I will.
Yeah.
So my why was that I didn't always want to be a trainer. I thought maybe when I was younger, maybe at teaching or nursing. And then I suppose I just sort of glided through life. I don't know if it's glided through. And then I worked in schools and colleges, and I was acutely aware of the fact that I was quite frustrated that things weren't done right. And I say right in that very, very many jobs I was asked to lie or bend the truth. So that would result in me leaving. Then I'd work at different places, and then I would quite often see, surely if we did it this way, it would be better or quicker or more effective or better for the students. Or, I worked for one company and, I'd say, oh, can we do this? I've spoken to, no, it's not the way we do it. And I'm like, yeah, but like that doesn't necessarily, so you just often wasn't listened to really, because the system, whatever the system was, didn't allow for that. And then my ultimate why was because COVID hit. And I'd set up 2M training, which was more freelancing, and that was my business name. But actually COVID hit, lost all my income, and then that prompted me into then getting my own centre with Highfield, which meant then that I never had to be at the mercy of other people to get work off the back of them. So I'd have to go and find my own work, which it's not easy in the beginning. You know what it's like. So yeah, that was my why. And then sort of gradually then thinking, when I was freelancing for others, I was aware that I would sometimes do it differently. Not wrong, because there wasn't really a right, but I probably wasn't corporate enough. Right. I got 5-star reviews, and I was really aware of the fact I was going to have to start doing it my way with my logo.
You see, so you say it's accidental or incidental or axolotl or whatever the blinking term is, but actually it's not, is it? Because what you're saying to me is that all the way along throughout your entire life, you've looked at what people have said to you is the way that it should be done, and you thought, nah, and you've kind of rattled against that, or there's been friction in that all the way along, because you felt you've either been asked to do something which fundamentally you believe is ethically incorrect, which is dreadful position to put anybody in. But you're right, it does happen a lot in business, kind of turn a blind eye to that, John.
A lot in education as well.
Don't say anything, but you know. So either kind of ignore the unethical nature of something, or you could see that it could potentially be done better, but nobody was listening. Again, probably because someone had already decided that that was the system and that's the way it goes, and and they probably thought that they'd heard all of the different options in the past, and maybe they'd heard the right option as well at some point, but they decided to ignore that, maybe due to
I think the other things are decision makers aren't best placed to make the decisions, because they're not. It's the same as with I was always really naively shocked that ministers don't necessarily have a background in the field they're a minister in, which incredibly naive, but one would have thought that, if you're going to be a minister for education, that you'd have an education background.
Don't be stupid. No, of course not. Health minister hadn't had a clue about what goes on in the health sector. Not a Scooby Doo's. No, it's true.
I think much in the same way that, I'm aware when I go and do training somewhere. I'm going to the fire service again next week, and I was aware that the first time I did it, the guy who booked me used to be a teacher, vast experience, and booked the right amount of training and planned the whole week. Whereas other times you get people booking and they don't actually understand what they're booking. And so are they to blame? Not necessarily. It's not necessarily their fault as such. So yeah, I think that's part of the problem. So sometimes I probably have, and you've probably been victim of systems that don't have the right decision makers, or people that making decisions aren't equipped correctly.
I think it's a difficult one, because I think sometimes what one person perceives as the right decision is different for another person. Yeah, it's because it's a different agenda. So it may be, especially in business, one of the things that I see a lot of is one of the decision-making processes will be, is this the right thing to get this business through to whatever exit plan that business has on its agenda? Now, is that right from the purpose or the point of view of the people that have built that business up? Is it right from the point of view of the clients of that business? Is it right from sort of an ethical standpoint for that business? Possibly not. But if their objective is, we have a board, we have shareholders, we have people that need to get money out of this, there's an end objective here, which is to do this, and then it's somebody else's problem, they might then be making all of the decisions for that business based upon what achieves that goal. So that goal has become for them the really important focus of attention beyond anything else. And if something stands in the way of that, you know what they're going to do? They're going to get rid of it. Right? Even if it's some of the stuff that means that people have loved that business or become fans of that business in the first place. Right?
Do you not think that some of this, I mean, we talk about this a lot about communication, but, you know, I know I've had it with freelancing before, that I probably have a better insight into what's going on. Well, I suppose, yeah, in a way, what's going on with that business, because I hear what the customers say. I actually hear what my customers say, and they're happy with that. But then there's this separation, isn't there? Like you said, and this is where the problem comes, and this is where quite often when there's not communication within a business, that it may be like you said, that the board have said this, but if you don't involve, it's like even, you know, when I was at the care show last week, that if you've got to involve carers and people that are on the floor. If they're the ones that are going to be delivering the care, they're the ones that are going to be teaching, they're the ones that are going to be serving, whatever it is. If you don't involve those people, I used to do staff supervision in the care sector, and management would often say, "Oh, we do it," and I said, "No. You need somebody else to do that, because the staff won't tell you things." But what used to happen was the staff would know that I was going to be feeding this back to management. But I said to management, we've talked about what's working, what's not, what they feel could be put in place that they could do. So I was asking them, and I said, and I will be giving this to you. I said, but you must communicate back to them. You must. I said, because if you don't, if they hear nothing, they're going to think all sorts of negative things. If they then hear, we can't have this because of X, Y, and Z, then they can understand. But so often, I think people get angry, annoyed, won't follow the rules, whatever it is, if they can't see a point in it. And I think I had this conversation with somebody the other day, particularly this is with neurodiverse people, particularly, not exclusively. I know for me, I love rules and I hate them. I love rules if I can see that there's a reason why and a purpose. But if you give me a rule and I can't see that there's a reason or a purpose or there's a flaw in it, I'm not going to follow it, because and I think that's what a lot of that, when we're talking about passion, what that comes down to. You and I have looked many a time at systems that we've been told to use. And again, I'll happily use a system, but if I fed back it doesn't work, well, you know, I mean, I've had it before with, I won't say who it was that they were teaching with, but it was a big organisation, I guess you want to call it, where somebody said it came up that when they're delivering their training, they can't update the training. It's only done every year. And I said, but if there's a problem, what happens? They said, well, what do you mean? They said, well, I said, what, lie? Well, it's not lying. I said, well, it is. I said, because if what you're delivering there is a problem with, then it's not right, is it?
No.
So people like me are seen as a pain. And I think, as you said, all those years, I think you used the word friction. There was often friction. The interesting thing is now that I'm going it alone, and now that I've been diagnosed and I manage things better, I don't have that friction now, because now I manage the whole thing. That I either walk away from something or I'm better at explaining it rather than arguing.
Let's just talk about the neurodiversity thing for a minute, because for me it's an incredibly important area. I think, I mean, as you know, our 8-year-old this week has just been diagnosed both ADHD and autistic, which has come as no shock whatsoever to us, because he is full on all the time, always full of something. Energy levels are like this. Doesn't go to sleep at all at night. Struggles to do that. Manages to deflect in conversations a lot.
I know someone like that I know with.
Yeah, any awkward conversation, it's like he's literally like, you can see the eyes go to the top of the head, and it's like, and they'll say something, he'll become jovial, and he'll say something funny, and they'll try and deflect away from that. And but here's the thing: there's a lot of passion in him. Right? Let's get back to the subject. There's a lot of passion in him, and one of the things that the counsellor said yesterday that is that this will all help now in terms of helping him through life and his career and everything else. And I was thinking, well, it will, but he will have passion for stuff, but the system will try and break him, and the system will try and put him down, and the system will try and say, not your way. And it's one of the reasons I believe that so many people who are neurodiverse end up working for themselves, because the system
doesn't like people that question things.
Correct. Yeah. Or people that have those passions, and have those absolute beliefs that there is a better way of doing it.
I mean, I think and it's whether it's. I mean, I always used to. Well, before I was diagnosed, and bearing in mind I had no idea, I just thought I was argumentative, talkative, all of the other things that I was too much of, or not enough, or whatever.
Just a naughty person.
No, I wasn't naughty. It was funny. Well, I used to say I was a bit naughty with my training delivery, but it worked. So, but no, I was always seen as. But the girl version of it, that's exactly it. Boys would have been seen as naughty, whereas I was seen as difficult, as in I fell out with
obstructive.
I don't even know if it was that really. It was sort of just a bit of a I don't really know. I suppose it's to have this negative view of myself. Then once I was diagnosed, it was like I thought, right, now I've got the manual here. This isn't bad. You've actually just got passion, really. And so once I kind of knew I had that, I stopped viewing myself as this argumentative person. I was then this passionate person who was going to make a difference with things. So, I mean, just today, yesterday had issues with things. Yesterday was spent literally trying to sort out things that other people hadn't done correctly. So then I get passionate, even when I rang the doctor's surgery yesterday to say something about my son. So straight away, I'm met with this sort of difficulty. So in my head, the inner wanted to come out, and I'm like, no, keep it in. Because I remember my days of customer service stuff. So now I'm a lot more, I don't know what the word is now. Poised, I don't know. No, I don't know what the word is. So that I'm aware now, I'm not arguing. I'm much better at putting my point across. But some of that will be that I don't put myself in. So in terms of friends, I won't put myself around people that I know don't have no interest in hearing my viewpoint. If it's within my work, then that's why I couldn't work for somewhere if they're not willing to listen. And that's not about it. People joke and say, you always say you're right. And I said, well, if I speak up, I'm pretty sure I am, because I will have evidence. I'm arguing with somewhere at the moment about parking things. And I've said, take me to court then. Take me to court, because I know that pretty much right in, you know.
Let's talk about this, because I think this is really interesting as well, which is that I think the system's broken in terms of the way it helps a lot of people with neurodiversity, in as much as, and when we first started talking about it, we had this whole conversation. Most of the people, and I've been involved in sort of access to work and, you know, workplace assessments and whatever for years, and too much of the system is about, let's recognize what somebody has, and then, in a way, even though we recognize that this person has a different way of looking at things, maybe a superpower, whatever you want to call it. Along with that, though, there are difficulties. It's not like it's a superpower that's, you know, I think like all superpowers in all superheroes in films, there's a bad side to their superpower as well, right? There's yin and yang in all of it. But although we kind of recognize all the great things these days, and we do talk about the great things, what we try and do when we then go to help and try and make the adjustments is we almost spend too much time trying to fix this person and tame them, if you like, and actually make them back to being normal.
Well, access to work grants, they offer coaching. Right. I don't want to be coached. Why should I be coached into being normal when, as I said to somebody this morning, John, that was on the other week, what most people benefit from bullet points. Pretty much everybody I know. So when I go to play a game, why do I want to read writing that's this big, that's got an essay? Just give me some bullet points. Pretty much going to benefit most people. So, you know, as they say, if most people are a bit ADHD or autistic, well, then why are we trying to change people, as you said, to not be? Why doesn't the world? And that's why now, where I say to people, if you want to get the best out of me, do this. But there's still part of me, if I'm honest, that feels like there's certain things I struggle with that I have to. So the RSD, I was trying to explain it to someone the other day. I've pretty much got it in hand. So rejection sensitivity. If somebody says something to me in a certain way, sometimes I could think, oh, they think bad of me or whatever. And it used to be very bad. And just recently, I've realized certain things have been slipping. I've probably been doing too much for other people and things. And when I tried to explain it to this person, whilst I knew that they were going to respect that, there was still part of me that felt a bit embarrassed, like you're broken a bit. And I don't know where that comes from. Maybe it is, like you said, it's when actually I think with that rejection sensitivity, actually a lot of that is about other people saying we're not good enough. So rather than, as I said to you about the victim and perpetrator thing,
yeah,
why is it that I have to still, that all of the vocabulary around it is that someone's too sensitive, they're too this, they're too that. And as I say to people, maybe I think you're insensitive. So I just think it's. I think
it's because we're constantly trying to. Yeah, I think it's because we're constantly trying to understand the world by our own narrative. Constantly, and I don't think that's anybody's fault, right? Because we're egocentric beings, and I just think we wake up in the morning and we think about the first person we think about when we wake up in the morning, unless you are Mother Teresa, or, you know, there may be other people out there. Well done if you are. Is you think about yourself.
I think this is why neurodiverse people make very good teachers, though, and carers.
Yeah.
because of those. So I will always, and maybe that's why, sorry to have interrupted you, maybe that's why when I do the teacher training, straight away, I probably seem argumentative initially to, sorry to say it, a lot of males that work in corporate sectors, because they're trained and sort of encouraged in a certain way of thinking. So my straight off when I'll say to them is, have you thought about looking at it like this? And I think it's because that it's almost like having that rejection sensitivity makes or helps me be able to get other people to look and say, you know, when you said that like that, did you consider how it made that person feel? And they'd be like, no. And I said, well, could you think that, you know, maybe? And so a lot of people will say that that way that I teach has encouraged them to think outside of their own box.
Yep.
He said.
And so that's where your passion comes from. So and actually, is that the same for a lot of us? Does part of our passion come from actually the things in us that are potentially things we struggle with as well?
Well, for you started off business very, very young, didn't you?
I did start business very, very young, yeah. And you're right. I mean, part of that was, well, no, I suppose in the, very, very young. I think part of it was I just always had this strange passion for creating something out of nothing. Yeah. I do struggle with the concept when people say to me, I do struggle with, and I understand that different people have different issues which keep them from doing stuff and whatever, but I do struggle when people say, oh, there's nothing we can do, or there's no work, or just blanket statements like that, because there's always something you can do, right? If you have a skill, you can get off your backside and you can go and do it. Might not mean you can make a lot of money. Might not mean you're going to set the world alight, but you can do something, right?
Maybe that's where there needs to be more support then for people to use their strengths the best. I think they were talking about this last night actually on I think it was on the news, and they were talking about because aren't they going to look at benefits for
that's right
disabled people and then they were saying on there that it was the high percentage of people that have got anxiety. But I would say that of course there's some people that don't want to. There's always going to be some people that don't want to, but I think that so often, I think neurodiverse people are very, very, well, two sides of the coin. They're either very, very, like you can get very, very stuck, or there's that hyper focus. Like, I mean, I was saying to someone today, I don't understand when people say they're tired. I'm like, what's this thing you're talking about, tiredness? And that probably frustrates the hell out of people that I say that, because I get very frustrated when people say I haven't got time, and I go, what do you mean you haven't got time? Find the time.
Well, this is it. No, this is entirely it. This is what I'm saying about some of the support and some of the areas of coaching, which is if somebody has something which is stopping them from moving forward, whatever passion that they have, which could potentially benefit everybody else, is the right way of coaching them to actually just throw stuff at them, which is just going to push them deeper and deeper into the mire? Or is the right way of coaching, which is what we've been doing, to say, I'll tell you what.
I was going to say, use me as an example.
Right. to say, actually, and we've done it like literally even today. You said, I'm drowning in this. I said, I'm going to get on this and I'll do it for you. Right. Because that, right, is actually really useful. I think there's too many coaches out there. I'm going to say it. I think there are too many coaches out there that are giving it all this, but actually are not doing anything. They are physically not doing anything for their clients. So if you want someone to dig a hole in the ground, right, you could stand there over them and go, that's a shovel. There, you put your foot on the top of that. You know, no, you're doing it wrong. You know, bend your back a bit more, do whatever, and you can watch them dig the hole. Or you could get a shovel and you could help dig the hole with them.
Well, it is. I think particularly because of neurodiversity, particularly ADHD, the whole, it's great there's help, but giving it for 3 years kind of is saying it's going to get better and that you can coach someone. Well, why? I still get back to this. I say if somebody has got, I don't know, something that's going to be a lifelong thing, that physically, which it is for somebody that's got neurodiversity, their brain is wired differently. And yet when it's something physical that you can see, that person wouldn't be told, the same as I've said with my son with maths, they wouldn't be told every day, get up and try and walk and try and try and try. It would be that we'll give them something, but you wouldn't say, right, you've got 3 years and then we're going to assess you again for that. And so, like you say, admin's always going to be something. You know, I've had books, you know, the delivery people not deliver as they should have done. That spun me out. So I've literally spent all day trying to sort out other people's issues.
Yeah.
Which is hard for anybody anyway. And then there comes that shame with it, that when you're, like you say, when you're going to keep, it will be like giving somebody, like you say, that shovel when they've already said, I've got a really bad back, and they're like, come on, if you just keep doing at it. And actually, as you said, in the end, all it does is make them worse, because their back's going to get worse. They're going to feel rubbish. The hole's not going to get dug. When, as you said, what you could say is, look, go and do the thing that plays to your strength, and I'll do that for you. Because there's a difference between, you know, there's some things that I've said to you, I really want to work. This is something that I'm really good. Like you've said before, I'll help you with the things that are the things that you struggle with, and the things that you're really good at, you can go and shine.
Yep. Here's the other thing, right? Here's the other passion killer, which is that when people have a really great idea, when people have something that they're incredibly passionate about and they want to make that happen in the world, what we try and do is we try and fit it into a box, right? We try and make it something that we've seen before. And dare I say it, even some business organizations which are meant to be around doing something differently and promoting people doing something in an innovative way or a different way or whatever, what they do is that some of those organizations will go in and go, well, are you doing it this way? Are you doing it that way? Well, what if the way to do it isn't the way that anybody else has done it before? A really great example of this, I don't know whether you saw it a little while ago on LinkedIn. I think it was, dare I say it, a Stephen Bartlett interview. God bless him. God bless him. Right? Other interviewers are available. Other podcasts are available to listen to as well, folks. But it's not bad. It's not bad. But he was interviewing the guy that started Airbnb. And the guy was saying that basically he was going to investors and whatever and giving them, you know, telling them this is the model, and everybody was saying, no, that won't work, that won't work, that won't work, it won't work, it won't fit, it doesn't fit our model, doesn't fit the model, won't work, doesn't work. It does work. He's made millions out of it, right? The point is that he believed in it. He kept going at it because he knew that it would work. But the system would have said, no, that doesn't work.
But don't you think that's agendas, though? I mean, you know that I've got something coming out soon. And that came about, that's what I was thinking about that. That came about because I saw something, I saw it from different eyes. I saw it from the eyes of the customer. I didn't see it from the eyes of the big business, because the big business weren't being my eyes.
Yeah.
But they weren't seeing what I was seeing. They weren't hearing, and I was hearing constantly this issue or that one, and I was trying to offer something. And again, it was sort of not really doubtful of it. I wasn't really doubtful, but I suppose I was thinking, well, I couldn't do that because really big businesses do that kind of thing. Until in the end, I just thought, I'll blow this, because what's there isn't fit for purpose for some people.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, I just sort of dug deep, and actually, when it came down to it, and probably having you to be able to bounce those ideas off, because you weren't any. I think what I tend to find with people that I speak to within training, because obviously that's what I do, is, and that's why I want to be offering that coaching, is because, as I say to them, I'll help you. People within your sector won't want to help you because you're competition for them. I said, I want to help people grow. So I'll help you every day of the week. And so, yeah, being able to speak to you about that, you weren't going to hit me with, that's not, you were hitting me with, what need is it going to meet? You know, what problems have people got? And straight away I was able to say to you, and you could see that you know, that was going to be able to work. But again, it's to do with a lot of the big training companies want to hate it, bums on seats. That's what they want. They want to get lots of people through. You've got coaches and you've got consultants that are going to meet that exclusive need. But there was definitely something in the middle that I could see, because I could see myself in you know, in that customer's eyes. But maybe it is my neurodiversity that's led me.
Do you know what? I hope when the AI picks up on this this talk this week, that it picks up on, hits me with and passion, because that would be brilliant. This will send this into absolute. It will elevate it in the search engines.
I'm just
for all the wrong reasons.
I was just thinking about young people though as well. You said about your son, and my son's nearly 12. He's going to secondary school. We purposely not picked the school that my eldest goes to, that's gone very much down this route of zero, what do they call it now? Zero disruption. That's it.
Right.
You know, and you know, I've got into various conversations with school about things they do, that there just seem to be flawed systems, you know, that my eldest, who's got glandular fever, that they've said it will probably come back, missed 2 revision tasks last week. So we get a text message saying he's missed 2 revision tasks, so he's going to have to do 2 champions hours, which means being at school till 5. Okay.
Right.
So in this same message, sorry, it says, so he's got P6 is till 4, champions hours till 5. He doesn't do champions hour because he said it doesn't help him. There's talking going on and he's very tired. So he identified it wasn't going to help. So now he's been told he's got to go to 2. And if he doesn't go to 2, he'll lose P6. And if he doesn't go to P6 4 times, there's a meeting. And I'm like, why don't we just have the meeting or a conversation with him to say, is there something going on as to why you're not doing your revision? To which they might have found out it's because A, he's got ADD and they've not helped him to revise because he said he doesn't know how to, and he's got glandular fever. So what they're actually wanting to do is to punish him with taking revision off him, but they're also punishing him by giving him more revision. And I'm looking at that rule. Then I look at my youngest, who I think last week, I don't know, they're not allowed to watch the girls play football. The girls get extra football, and then he got told, don't stand over the line. So he stepped back over the line. I'm sure you'll know this with your son. Stepped back over the line because that's what they said. To which one of the kids said, you know that you're going to get your football taken off you. And he said, I'm not over the line. I did what they said. I'm not over the line. And he said, but I don't understand. He said, if the girls are allowed to have this, why can't we? And so again, he's then seen as argumentative. And he's like, but I'm not. I'm just explaining to you why your rule is ridiculous. But of course, he will get a slip for that. And if he'd gone to the other secondary school, he'd get put in isolation for it, for being rude. To which I said to school, he's not being rude. Actually, all they're doing is putting their viewpoint across, and they've got every right to.
It's very difficult. I think things are changing. Years ago, we all just did what on earth we were told at school, or if we didn't, we were really naughty kids, and we were really bad, and we went to detention. And when I was really young, we got caned if we were bad. We got hurt by teachers. No one can say that that's right at all, but you wouldn't have done it again, or if you did it again, you were it's because you enjoyed being caned.
It's really difficult. Having worked in schools, I can see it's really difficult, but it comes back to this communication thing, that so often there's this blanket whatever it is, when actually, if a conversation, Samuel got told off for sticking the V's up at the teacher the other day, and he said I didn't. He said I answered the question with 2. Do you think, and he's not. And I said to the school, but did anybody actually ask him? Did he do that? Well, no, the teacher interpreted it. I said, but did you not use your, the fact he's not been naughty before? And they said the teacher can use their, discretion.
Well, said, as you know, I love communication. Communication is one of my favorite topics. And I do believe that a lot of it does come down to communication.
Yeah.
I think it's right. I think we need better lines of communication. And I think interestingly, as we've actually got better with technology, and we've created almost better ways of communicating, we've actually got worse at communicating, because we can almost send messages to these weird places in the sky where nobody actually then gets them, right? I look at a lot of the apps. Sorry if you're one of the people that makes those apps that the schools use, for example, and a lot of them are rubbish, or not fit for purpose, because the technology, it just doesn't work, some of it, right? That's why I'm not going to name any of them. But if you make those and you're guilty out there, some of that stuff is rubbish. But also, it does come down to communication. But a major part of communication as well is education, right? So a lot of this comes back down to what you do as well, because how many times do we see, especially at school or in work or whatever, that the problem is nobody's doing the right thing there because they don't have the education to deal with it, right? They are not aware. And yes, I know that, like, teachers, for example, have got a lot on their plate and whatever else anyway. And I know, bosses have got a lot. You're all busy people out there, bosses. You've got a lot on your plate and whatever else. But do you know what? We need better awareness. People need better education in terms of, because none of this stuff is going away. All of that. It's not like, because you hear daft things like, oh, but there's a lot more neurodiverse people than there were years ago. There's a lot more people with mental health issues than there were years ago. No, there probably weren't. There probably were just as many people struggling, right? But we didn't identify it. We didn't help those people that we didn't know stuff.
Well, I was still one of those people. You were, yeah.
Yeah, but we know stuff now. So if we know stuff, there is no excuse. Actually, it's now about education. It is now about helping everybody to have some understanding. I'm not saying that everybody has to become an expert, but are saying that everybody should be more aware, right? Because that's the problem. And if we start saying that the only way that we can help people is by getting funding, putting somebody who's an expert in, and that's when the help happens. That's wrong.
When it's crisis,
that's wrong. That's no good.
And then having to wait, and I mean, people having to wait. I mean, some people, particularly neurodiversity, probably never will get a diagnosis, which won't open the door for some things. Access to work, you can apply without it. But I saw somebody on a group yesterday saying they've been waiting 8 months to hear something back. I mean, how ridiculous. It's a disability. So you've got to wait 8 months before you're even considered for anything.
Yeah.
And then that's probably, as we've talked about, not fit for purpose anyway, because all it does is go, here's a load of money. And I'm very grateful that I stumbled across you, because being able to, I've communicated what those needs are, you've listened, and then we've been able to work something out. But I know a lot of people, and I sat not knowing what to do. It was like, okay, so I've got this money, not help. And I had to work out what I needed, which is the worst possible thing you can do for somebody that's got ADHD. When you go, here's this, make another choice. Because you're going to go, nah, that's all right.
Yeah. Oh, it's actually just burdening.
That's the thing. I sat there and thought, what do I do with this? And then, it's a system that's, and we've talked about it a lot, that neurodiversity is quite a different kind of disability in terms of how it affects you and how others view you. I would say as well how others view you. In fact, I saw Charlie, is it Beswick, when she was saying about her son, he's got physical disability, and I read this morning she was saying that, she said he's autistic, and she said, but actually, ironically, I don't know if you read it, so I'm very lucky that visibly, she said, so he can run up aisles in shops and do all sorts. She said, but because of his physical disability, people are very sympathetic, and she said, but actually, I feel for people where their child doesn't have that, because it won't be seen. They'll just say, oh, they're being difficult, they're being naughty. So I thought that was quite an interesting one. But I don't think the system is really set up to support, and I say support people, and you're right. Why does it have to get to crisis points? And actually, you were saying about, I was saying about the education system, care system, whichever it is, that if you invest now, this is where the problem, though, isn't it? That any government that's in doesn't want to invest now because they're not going to reap the benefits. But I think even in schools, I think that teachers can't actually get on and teach properly because there's so much other stuff going on that, when you think how much society has changed, teachers are taking on the burden of so much other stuff. Whereas if they have more support in schools from people that aren't teachers, then actually teachers could get on and do the thing that they need to do, and not having to be social workers and counsellors and everything else, and then leaving, because ultimately that's what's happening. I did it.
And so kind of bringing the whole conversation back round, we started off, we were talking about passion, we're at a situation now where, like, government's talking about how do we reduce benefits, etc., etc. And I can understand that there's not an infinite amount of money to go around, etc. And it's right that we get people. It's right that we get people working, but if we don't support people in their passion, if we don't even talk to people, communicate to people about perhaps what their passion is, because they some people need that conversation first, right? And I don't mean sort of like NAF careers teacher type talk about, oh, have you considered this or have you considered that, which is completely irrelevant. But just talking to people about what is it,
what drives them,
that drives you. Therefore, could we put you in touch with this, because there could be an opportunity here, right?
I'm listening to my son playing drums. That's his passion.
Exactly.
Literally, and how sad that he said, "But I'm really thick, aren't I?" To which I had to say to him, "No, you're not." I said, "You love music," and I said, okay, maybe you're not so academic because of how your mind works. It's not suited to exams. But I said, the world needs musicians, the world needs artists, the world needs scientists, the world needs whatever, sports people. Yeah. And that should be seen as they need trades people, rather than just you fail because you couldn't do that.
Exactly. And all the way through, I think we've just got to start looking at, we've just got to look at systems and go, right, okay, does this system ignite the passion that then enable, and then does it then enable that passion to come into fruition? Because actually, if we get back to that, if we find the ways of like taking people wherever they are with whatever they are passionate about and driving them forward, then we have a more passionate society. And that's where we can help people. And we should stop going, well, do you know what you need? What we need to do is listen to them and say, change that
and
narrative.
That's where that comes from, those educators, whether it's teachers in schools or whether it is that's why I said I talk to you about this a lot. I have people that I train, and then I'm training them to be able to spot whatever in other people. So I was only speaking to a friend last night. I said, God, I was such a pain at school, this person said. I was a real pain to the teachers because I wasn't motivated. And I went, that wasn't your responsibility to motivate yourself. It was the teacher's responsibility. And of course, then that comes through as adults. So I think, it should all be about. But of course, that's all about that psychology about people.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. And we've had that with our own children, where we found, like, where we've had someone that's not gone, your child is doing it this way, that's not the way we do it, but has actually stopped and asked and said, what helps your child? What motivates your child? What can we do to help your child? Right. Then it has worked. Right. And that's what all of us need to be doing more. We need to stop with our agenda. We need to be turning that around and we're going, right, what can I do to help you
be the best
with no expectation that actually, that it may come back as like, well, what I want to do is this and this, but I don't want to do that. And you might feel disappointed about that. Well, get over it.
Well, I had with Samuel with his music. He when he was picking his options, he said, "Well, I've got to think about earning potential, and I've got to thought." And I thought, at the age of 13, I think it was quite a lot to think about. But his passion is music, And now I've said to him, "You want to earn money over the summer," so he's going to tutor kids, and that actually potentially could be a road that he's could go down. I said,
"You know what I like about that? That's great. You see, that's what I was talking about when I was young. What he's thinking there is, how can I make money? How can I get off my butt and make money?" And that's the thing. It's not for the government. It's not for the government to start saying, this is what we need to do to stop people having support or whatever. It's how are we going to encourage people to be, if they need to be, entrepreneurial? How are we going to support them in being entrepreneurial? How, if they're in business but they're struggling, how are we going to help them be the best that they can be? And here endeth the lesson. If you've enjoyed this rant of a rant today on A Better Way of Life, if you feel passionate about it, do let us know.
And let us know what your passions are and your whys.
Yeah, let us know. If you've got a passion that you'd like to come and talk to everybody else about, we would love to have you on as a guest, because they're the kind of people that we want to have on here. Not necessarily the biggest business person in the world or the most successful or whatever. We want the passionate people. We want the people that are doing it. Yeah, people that are doing it for the right reasons. Perfect. That's how we make a better way of life. We'll be back same time, same place next week. If you've enjoyed this, please give it lots of thumbs up and share it with lots of people. If you haven't, we've just wasted 55 minutes of your time, and we apologize for that profusely. You can now send a complaint to Ofcom or whatever, because we'll ignore it. Okay, until next week, from Marianne and myself. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.